Hey everybody, my name is Casey and this is Necropolis, a Diabolical Dungeon Delve. If you haven't heard about this, it is a roguelike dungeon crawler that takes a lot of inspiration from Dark Souls. It was developed by Hairbrained Schemes, the people behind Shadowrun Returns and the sequels. I was really looking forward to this game, but it is a bitter disappointment. Which is an absolute shame because the concept of a roguelike, Souls-like is fantastic. It's mashing together two subgenres that I adore. FTL is easily one of my favourite games. And I love that recently we've seen games that have taken a lot of inspiration from Dark Souls, such as Salted Sanctuary, or Dark Mouse and Hyper Light Drifter. So Necropolis had a lot going for it from the outset. A great developer and a fantastic idea and a wonderful art style. The first thing that struck me about the visuals is just how colourful everything is. It's got a really vivid art style. A lot of games that take their inspiration from Dark Souls also try to recreate the bleak, oppressive feeling of that game. But this is really let down by a lack of variation in the levels. They're randomly generated, but a lot of the rooms and corridors feel samey and have this dull grey look to them. Unfortunately, that's the least of the game's issues. For a start, the game made my Steam controller completely wig out and would not stop vibrating. The camera movement is really janky and stuttery. I don't know why this is. It feels like the game barely got playtested at all. It feels absolutely bare bones, rough and unfinished. This shouldn't be a full release, this should be an early access. There's only one character class to begin with more promised in DLC. The weapon selection feels incredibly limited. You can't dual wield weapons, for example, or equip something two-handed. It's either sword and shield or mace and shield. Or instead of a shield you can equip a offhand wand or crossbow. But the game's biggest sin is the combat. Everything feels floaty and like you're not really interacting with the world at all. It's just meh. It lacks feedback, and in a game that's inspired by Dark Souls, you really want to have good, tight combat that feels good. This doesn't. It feels just lacking. They should have taken a lot more time to tune the combat so that it feels good, it feels challenging, it feels responsive. Enemy AI is another area that needed work before release, because I've seen enemies get snagged on the environment, get stuck behind things and act really stupidly. I'd have some leeway with the game if this was in early access, but it's not. This is a finished product, apparently. I tried the multiplayer, and another thing that I feel is glaringly unfinished is that the game has no matchmaking or anything like that. You can't join up with random people, there's no pickup groups. Somebody has to be in your friends list. In order to play the game co-op, I had to go on the Steam forums. There also is no in-game communication. There's no voice chat built in, there's no text chat. This seems like a glaring omission for a game that's obviously geared towards co-op play. It also feels quite different when you're playing with others. In the single player, it's permadeath. You die, that's it, wiped, and you start over from the beginning. When you're playing with others, if you die, you kind of get knocked out and you have to wait for one of your friends to revive you. That alone makes the multiplayer a lot less challenging and easier, but as well as that, the enemies seem to take the same amount of damage, so if there's 3 or 4 of you, you're still facing the same enemies with the same health. So this is yet another area where I feel they should have taken more time to balance it. As it is, the single player feels completely unbalanced compared to the multiplayer. The roguelike elements feel very flat on the ground as well. There's very little that you unlock apart from these codex that are vague with what they do. You've got kind of a hint at what they might do, but it's not much to go on. You also unlock crafting recipes for potions and spells, but that's it. You can't start with a different weapon set. So when you die, you don't get the feeling that you've made any progress at all. You don't have this feeling that, oh, I've unlocked this new weapon I can start with, I want to try that out right away. It's just, oh, I have to slog through that again. And if that sounds harsh, I'm sorry, it really does feel like a slog. The combat feels so repetitive and dull and unsatisfying that there's no other way to describe it. It is a slog, and the game, it keeps spawning in enemies in a lot of areas that you've already cleared, so if you have to backtrack again, it just feels, ugh, more of this. And that's not how you want a game to feel for the player. I was streaming it the other night and I just wanted it to stop. And that is a shame to say, because there really is the bones of a good game here. It's a great concept and there's a lot of potential there. It's just, this game is not ready. It never should have been released in this state, and especially not at the price they're charging for it either. So I can't possibly recommend it. There is so much that needs to be ironed out. It feels half done. The lack of features, the lack of content, it's just so disappointing for a game that I was really looking forward to. I think the fact that there were no advanced reviews should have clued me in that this wasn't going to be that good. It's actually made me quite worried about Hairbrained's upcoming Battletech game, which I had been really looking forward to as well, and right now I'm feeling a little skeptical about it because of Necropolis. I do hope it's good, just like I hope they work harder on Necropolis and bring to the table some of the potential that's actually there. But there is a lot that they're going to have to do. They're going to have to bring different classes. They're going to have to bring more content, different level designs. And they really need to work on the combat, because it is terrible. They're going to have to balance the single player with the multiplayer. They're going to need to add features like matchmaking and in-game voice chat or text chat. It would be really nice if you could unlock different armor sets that you can use from the beginning. The codex that you unlock have to have some sort of clear indication as to what they do, and they really need to stop enemies spawning in behind you. It's not fun. It's not challenging. It's just annoying. Like I said, there is the bones of a good game here. I would love to see it reach its potential, but as a full-priced product that's meant to be in a finished state, it's dreadful. It really, really is not a good game. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed my review of Necropolis. If you like what you've seen, hit subscribe. I hope I've been informative and have articulated why I feel Necropolis is not a particularly good game, or at least in its current state. Thanks again for watching.